You seem to still be up there somewhere.
Maybe I am. There are flying saucers.
Supposing they're Martians or something in there.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is...
Tobias.
Tobias! I'm not going to ask you how your weekend is yet, because guess what? We have a guest this week. This week we're talking to the fucking legendary Steve Berg. Steve!
Welcome.
Up?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here. This is very exciting. I think the world of you too, and Nate, the producer, who I'm just meeting now.
You're not just saying that because he can edit this to make it sound like you're saying anything he wants.
Well, I'm hedging my bets. Let's just say
that could be AI. I don't.
It could be. Yeah.
That's that's funny. Yeah, Nate. See, we told everybody Nate was real. You guys didn't believe us, but he is. He exists.
True.
Anyway, no, super excited to have you here. We've already had a ton of fun talking just before recording the show, so we had to hurry up and record before we burnt ourselves out. And all the good stuff. We'll go over who you are and why people should care about it here shortly. But first, Tobias, how was your weekend?
Oh boy, it was good. It was a weekend. I am still hard at work finishing this Mothman book with Richard Estep, and I just got back to work on it, really, because I had to take the entire month of October off, and I just finished up the chapter on the O'Hare sightings. Ooh. So now, Asherz, I think probably where that's going to end up.
Oh yeah.
But let's just say I'm glad that chapter is over, and I can move on to something else. I really, really want to get all of the writing done, at least on my end. Whatever Richard does is up to him. But he's a pro, so I'm not worried about it. Like this month for sure, and then I can spend next month editing and revising, and by Christmas I shouldn't have to fucking care about this anymore. So, fingers crossed, right? But yeah, I mean that's what I did over the weekend, was work on that. I got together with some friends and played some tabletop role playing games and stuff like that too. But for stuff, as far as stuff people listening to this care about, that's probably the big thing. Oh shit, I almost forgot. We started watching, and I always watch things late because who has time to watch shit when it comes out? You know what I mean? Like, who are all these people on the internet posting about shows as soon as they come out? I finally started Hysteria. It's on Peacock or NBC. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've never heard of it, Steve.
Okay. No, I've never heard of it.
It's it's this horror comedy TV show about, so this satanic panic overtakes this town somewhere in Michigan sometime in the 1980s. And you can't tell at first if the satanic element is real, if it's sort of in people's minds. But then this high school band decides that they're going to capitalize on it to build their own reputation, right? And then shit hits the fan and it just gets bananas. And I'm really enjoying it. I've got one episode left. I watched the penultimate episode yesterday. I haven't watched the final episode yet, so I don't know how the series ends, but it's pretty good. It's not the best horror comedy thing I've ever seen in my life, but it does have Bruce Campbell in it, which is more than enough for me. Yeah. And he is fucking awesome. So I recommend it just for that. But the only thing is, there are times it's billed as a horror comedy, and by not the best horror comedy I've ever seen, I by no means am saying it's a bad show at all. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It just feels like at times that it doesn't remember that it's a comedy, and it's just horror. You know what I mean? So I guess it really leans more towards the horror kind of dramatic end of the horror comedy spectrum. So just be prepared for that. It's not Tucker and Dale versus Evil, like it's not that kind of goofy fun. So.
Wow. So I'm afraid to watch new TV shows. I'll be honest with you. Like when a new show comes out, I'm like, well, how do I know it's not just going to get fucking canceled right in the middle of me being really into it?
Dude,
oh,
I
God,
know.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. It's like you don't want to put your your heart and soul and commitment and fall in love and then have it ripped away from you.
Right. It's happened so many times. And I just can't handle that type of rejection and abandonment in my life. Right. I had enough of it.
Well, I think this season, even if it's not renewed for a second season, you can just watch this first season and it's not going to leave you with, TV blue balls or whatever. Like it'll be fine.
Tune in next time. Canceled. Like that's
canceled.
Right? Damn it.
We're not allowed to have blue balls anymore.
You had mentioned that it takes place somewhere in Michigan, and that reminded me of something. Have you ever? There's this horror short, and it's called Possibly in Michigan. Have you ever seen it?
Mm-mm.
Never heard of it?
I don't think so. No.
Oh my God. Okay. So it's on YouTube. Go check it out. I'm actually going to link it in the description for you guys, the show notes this week. So that way you can go watch it. It's almost 12 minutes long. It's fucking amazing. It's from the 80s. I don't know. That's all I'm going to say about it. Go watch it. And then Tobias, you get homework this week. I'm going to come back next week and we're going to talk about it.
Wait,
all right.
Did you say it was called Probably Michigan?
Possibly in Michigan. Yeah.
Awesome.
Definitely check that out. It's
write that down.
It's really good, actually. It's a musical short, but it's a horror musical short. Anyway, check it out. It's
oh
really
my
good.
God, I have homework and it's a fucking musical. Like
you're gonna like it. Trust me.
What did I do?
You can sit through. It's 12 minutes. You can do it.
Fine. Okay.
You can do it. We'll talk about it next week. So anyway, it reminded me of it. And every chance to talk about that thing, I do. So. Anyway, Steve, how was your weekend?
Oh, well, thank you for asking. It was eventful and busy. I had my cousins come in town, 3 of them, and some of them had their significant others with them. So it was my weekend was just playing tour guide. But I will say one thing that was kind of nice is my cousin's boyfriend is really into paranormal stuff. He's on a ghost investigating team in Pennsylvania. So he wanted to see some high strange sites, and I was more than happy to show him that. That was actually fun. We went to the Squirrel Cage in Council Bluffs, Iowa, which is allegedly haunted jail, and then we went to the Black Angel of Death, where it's an allegedly haunted cemetery, and then I took him to Big Lake Park, which I want to bring this up later. I'm not gonna. It's kind of germane to a new UFO TV show that is out starring one George Knapp. But I took him to this park where this famous UFO incident happened, where a UFO was seen by a group of people and started dropping hot molten slag. Okay. But I have a bone of contention with the George Knapp's version. It seems to be incorrect to me.
What are you telling me?
Wow.
That a television personality might purposefully misconstrue information on a paranormal case?
Dude, well, but I take this personally because it's in my backyard. I'm like, whoa. You didn't even get the name of the park right. It's I got so mad. My wife was like, calm down. Why are you so angry about this? I'm like, I don't know. I should be. It's ridiculous.
Just picturing your face beet red. You're sweating, grinding your teeth into powder.
God, it bothered me. Sloppy research is very annoying to me because there's no excuse for it anymore. Yeah.
It is.
See? And everybody thinks Tobias just rants for no reason. We keep telling you guys,
I know. I am rapidly becoming the old curmudgeon of the paranormal, but it's not my fault. I wouldn't have to do that if people would just be better. Be better.
It's just not hard anymore.
No. Well, people don't even fucking try. The thing.
I guess.
No, they don't. They don't. But it's color me shocked, I guess. You know?
Yeah. But yeah, that was basically my weekend. I had a really nice sandwich too. That was kind of memorable from a place called Goldberg's. It was just a chicken sandwich, but they did something to that bread. It was the perfect. Brother, I'm gonna say it was a whole grain, multi-grain bread, but they toasted it so perfectly
Like it was like crispy on the outside, but still
really
like a little
was.
like moist on the inside.
Exactly.
Oh,
And
that's the best.
It's not hard. It's not easy to achieve. And there was a nice, thick piece of Havarti cheese on there. And it was just very pleasant. I've been thinking about it ever since.
That sounds nice, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does Goldberg's have anything to do with the wrestler Goldberg?
No, it would be amazing if it did. Although I should start saying, yeah. It's like his great grandfather, like. No, I wish it did. I wish it did, though.
Did you experience? Yeah, you did have to ask. Of course, like that's the first thing on everybody's mind.
Yeah, of course.
But did you experience anything paranormal? I feel like we just glossed over that. You said you went to all these paranormal places. Right. I assume you guys put on your tightest black T-shirts, grabbed your best K2 meters, and headed out there. Did you see any ghosts? So
2 of the people in my party saw a cat ball light up. Okay, so they were excited about that, and Wait, so you didn't see the cat ball light up? I did not. No. I did. I experienced nothing, of course, which is just par for the course. And then my older cousin, who's like about 60, she said she thought she saw a shadow in like her peripheral, but like I don't know. Maybe. I hope she could have. Okay. I mean, people do claim to experience things at this place, so
sure.
But,
you went like 3 places. So did this all happen at the same place?
No, all of it was at the Squirrel Cage, which is, I think, kind of a quasi-famous place in the, like at least in the Midwest part that I'm in the Plains states, in the Great Plains.
The Squirrel Cage sounds like a bar that would make me really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is so like medieval. It's really like horrible at this place because it was a revolving jail. I'm not even joking. It was like in a cylinder, and they would do a crank and turn the prisoners around to like let them out.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's like, but like, dude, it was like the conditions were not like cool. I'm like, wow. It wasn't even that long ago, so it's like it's got a bad vibe there, man.
Huh. Interesting. Well, like cat balls, in and of, like a cat ball lighting up in and of itself, that's just operating according to how it's supposed to, right?
Yeah. And I know vibration sets those things off too, so it could have been like we were all stomping around in there, But who knows?
It was obviously demons. Come on.
Could have been a ghost. Could have been a demon.
Yeah. Like I'm basically would bet my life that it's demons.
Yeah,
right. Safe bet is demons.
Yeah.
That's the obvious answer. I don't know. Anyway, it sounds like you had a really good weekend.
It was good. It was busy. I usually love uneventful weekends, but it was nice to see family, and it made my mom happy. So it was good. It was good.
Oh no, that's awesome. Where are they? Are they from out of state?
Yeah, they were from Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, actually. Fond du Lac. Thank you. They just moved there, so that's they were pronouncing it wrong even.
Oh boy, that's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for them.
Wow, how embarrassing. No, I think that sounds awesome. Wow.
It was pleasant. How about you, Ashley?
Thank you. Yes, I didn't do a whole lot. I have been working a lot. I am on currently day 2. It will be day 4 by the time you guys hear this, of a 7-day stretch for work. I am really. Oh no, I'm on day 3. See, I don't even know what day it is anymore because it doesn't matter, because what am I doing today? I'm working today.
Oh,
that's basically it. So I picked up a second job. I don't think I've really talked much about this on the show. I know I've talked about it, personally. And it's been really fun, actually. I get to role play as an elf. It's really neat. I enjoy that a lot. So I work for elfster.com, and I do like the chats and emails. Well, in the chats and emails, like, we are in character. We are elves from the North Pole.
Oh my God.
And so it's customer service, but it's probably the funnest customer service job I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm really enjoying that. And sometimes we'll get kids and stuff that will chat into us. Sometimes we'll get people like the customers will get really into it. One girl asked where I was from, and I told her the North Pole, and she's like, "Oh, right, that's." It's not too daunting when I get to work those shifts. It's actually pretty pleasant. But the general work culture has been pretty interesting. And for the first time, I've actually gotten to speak with like the big boss one-on-one. And
So Santa Claus?
I did. I talked to Santa. Yeah. I did. I talked to Santa, and Santa's husband, I guess, is really into, specifically the Mothman. And so I know that during one of our like orientations, like one thing that we had to do was like show people, I don't know, like an object that we owned, right? That had like neat memories or something tied to it. Well, I had just gotten back from the Mothman Festival, and I have a Mothman tree. And while I was at the Mothman Festival, had just bought new ornaments for it. I just started the Mothman tree last year. So I showed those off. And of course, told everybody about my Mothman stuff. So she was like, her husband had like 1,000,001 questions for me about Mothman. And it's so wholesome because he doesn't know shit,
Aw.
And it's great, but it is exhausting at the same time to have to explain over and over again about how it's not tied to any natural disaster, and
Right.
everything that is not necessarily true. There's so much more to it. But that was interesting, and then I decided to just go all out for it. Why not go out with a bang and admitted to my boss that I saw the Mothman, and that was fun, and she took it well. So
You weren't immediately fired, so
I wasn't. She was just like, wow, I'd pee my pants. My husband thinks that's really cool. I'm like, yeah, that's...
Yeah.
It is. It's super cool because I'm really cool and I'm the best. So, no, it was, it's always kind of worrisome when you kind of clue people in on that side of your life. And they're just regular people. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I do.
are they
do
ready
too.
for this? But you know what? I do it every time because just Google my name and all the weird shit's going to come up anyway. So you might as well
can't hide
send
it.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I assume that it's so easy to find like a record of the books I've written, appearances, things like that you might as well just be upfront about it because people will find out. And it's weird to hide. It's not a shameful act, right?
Nope.
Exactly.
So.
Right. I'm either going to be proud of being weird or I'm not, and I'm choosing to be proud of it. So, but that, like I said, that was neat. I didn't lose my job. I'm still working, and that's what I've been doing lately. So,
I hope you found a little time for yourself.
whew, I'm trying. Yeah, here and there, a little bit. So,
Good,
but thank
good,
you.
good.
Thank
You
you.
have
I'm
good attitude. Good attitude.
I am just even when I'm like working just my regular day job and my regular shifts, I'm such a busybody person. Like I don't stop moving. So I'm really bad at making time for myself. So I actually took it upon myself. And on Friday, which was my last day off that I had, full day off, started playing Animal Crossing again. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because
I love melting away into a video game.
Right. It's mindless. I don't have to pay attention to story and I can just enjoy it. So I have been forcing myself to play Animal Crossing.
Good.
But yeah, I'm chugging along. It's only for the holiday season. So I'll be back to not doing that, after December 24th when my elf has to go back to the North Pole. So, anyway, let's talk about some news. Let's do some newsing.
Sure.
Pretty big news today. I think this episode will technically come out before it takes place. A lot of people are talking about this. Let's talk about it just a little bit. This UAP congressional hearing coming up on the 13th. So for you guys listening, that's today. I've seen a lot of people make a lot of claims about this. A lot of people in ufology make a lot of claims about this. I don't know why anybody thinks this is going to be any different than what it's been. I am so far not impressed with any of the people speaking, but who knows? Maybe they'll blow my mind and they'll roll out an alien like they did in Mexico.
The totally real and not at all like shamefully produced and or stolen from archaeological dig site Peruvian mummies.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't really care too much about it, but I know a lot of people do, and I don't fault anybody for it, especially the newer people and within ufology. I get it. It seems very exciting, but I've said it before. They're just edging us. Well, we talked about blue balls earlier. Let's do it again. This is definitely a case. Get your balls ready, because they're going to be sad.
Project Blue Book, more like Project Blue Balls.
Did you say they're edging us?
Yeah, they're edging us. That's what they're doing.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
That's what it is. Every time they're like, well, there's some things that are unidentified, but we don't know what they are. But they're not aliens, but they might be. You know, and I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of the shit show.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
What's funny about this is I didn't even know it was coming up. Like, I don't know how I missed it, other than I probably have stopped following all of the usual suspects who would be fucking shrieking about this online.
Right.
Because, yeah, what could they possibly say that any reasonable person would care about at this point? What could possibly be brought up that anybody should give a shit about?
Yeah.
Well, I know Elizondo's going to be there, and he's going to. Oh yeah, I know, right? We just talked about him last week and how credible he is.
Right?
Lou.
He'll let us know if he spots any mysterious chandeliers on the way in.
Oh
I'm sure.
my god, dude. Unbelievable.
But he did have that book. He came out with the Imminence. Is that what it's called? I didn't read it. Twice you read it.
I fucking bought it like an idiot. I've got it next to me, actually.
Oh, you're not an idiot for keeping up with the culture of your community.
It's true. Like if I have Stan Romanek's book, then at this point, I don't know what a person would have to do for me to not have their damn book. Now, I did buy Stan's book prior to him, being convicted of child sexual materials or whatever.
Yeah.
So
bad stuff.
Right.
That's, well, as far as I know, Elizondo's not done anything like that.
God,
no.
Then of course, don't buy books from people like that. But, like I said, it's not a terrible thing to be in the know, at least that way, so then you can educate people better about kind of what's gone right and what's gone wrong. And then it's open-minded, maybe Elizondo does have something, in all of what he says. So like I said, I'm not going to write the guy off completely. I really haven't. I've never talked to him, for one, and I've never really deep dived him that much. But he's going to be there, and I know people are foaming at the mouth. They can't wait. They can't wait for Elizondo to go on there and do his thing. And, but as far as is the government going to be like, oh yeah, there's definitely some stuff. No, just watch the highlights reel afterwards. The UFO Twitter is going to be all over it. They'll tell you what's important. I did find the one interesting with when they had the Navy guy, Ryan Graves. I do find Ryan Graves himself very interesting because he's not hanging out in the spotlight and stuff. And he does just seem like a genuine person of the military that's had some weird experiences. Right. But other than that, I mean, how many people have I talked to in my lifetime that just have genuinely interesting UFO experiences,
Yeah.
So that's,
Graves is a handsome lad too. You have to admit it.
I would peg him. That's for sure.
Well, this has certainly taken a turn, and I don't think I have to admit anything.
Oh no! No, certainly don't.
Just saying.
But he seems like he'd be for it. Okay.
Yeah, he'd be down.
He seems adventurous.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, send your cease and desist letters to Ashley Hilt on Wednesdays. We talk weird.
Anyway, so that's what I'm saying about the congressional hearing right now. Again, this is I know you guys don't know this, and it's crazy, but we're not recording this on Wednesday, so it hasn't happened yet. So we'll probably talk about if anything happens next week. I'm
sure I'll cover it for the website and all that stuff.
You guys have any predictions or anything you want to say about the upcoming hearings?
I mean, I'll just predict that it is there. They will say a couple salacious things that will get people excited, and it will not materialize into anything. Like kind of all the hearings. But I mean, all this stuff is really old news. I mean, it's like they've been saying the same sort of thing since the 50s, really. Like I'm just, I guess I've been reading about this stuff and very into UFOs for a long time. And so I was very credulous for many, many years. And, you get burned so many times. And I just feel like anything coming out of the government, I'm very skeptical of, I guess, in terms of UFOs.
You should be. I just brought this up. I don't remember if it was when we were covering like the Elizondo chandelier photo or what. I'm sure I've said this about a million times at this point, but like we've been waiting on government disclosure since 1947.
Yeah, exactly.
It hasn't happened yet, and there's no reason to suspect that it ever will. At this point in the UFO community, D is for disclosure, but it's also for daddy, because that's how they treat these fucking guys. And I don't get it. Like, oh, please, Big Daddy Elizondo, give us some more of that UFO lore. And what is the point of this? Like where is it getting us? Because right now, what's going on, like the stories people are telling in these disclosure circles, it's just like a fucking 1990s ufology reunion tour.
Yeah.
Like none of it's new.
No, same people too.
Yeah. It's not moving the ball forward even a little, which I know this will be another one of my famously unpopular opinions, but it is what it is. Like if you want to shut me up, prove me wrong. I love changing my opinion when I am introduced to new information. I love it. It's my favorite fucking thing.
Yeah. If you
so do that.
If you're interested in the government study of UFOs, you can go read the entirety of Project Blue Book yourself, and guess what's happening? The same shit now that was happening then. It's not any difference.
100%. Well, even just the the concept of the U.S. government being the arbiter of UFO truth really has become like modern folklore.
Yeah.
And to me, it's all folklore until it's not. So I am sure the government and the military has more data on UFOs. I am not convinced at all that they have crashed saucers. There's just no evidence of that I can see.
Sure.
But I think they probably have more data. Of course, they would study it if there's a real phenomenon. That would make perfect sense. However, I do not think they know what it is or what it represents any better than the three of us, if I'm being honest. Like, I really do.
That's my entire platform, and that's what I tell people is that at the end of the day, what's scarier for them to come out and go, look, there's something going on, but we don't know exactly what it is, and we can't tell you where it's coming from, or them just not saying anything.
Yep.
I think that's it. I think they like you said, they might have a little bit more data, but not much. I don't think they really have much.
I'm kind of with you. I mean, like it's a nice, storyline and narrative, and it does make them seem all powerful, but it's just hearsay and rumors. We really don't know. And the people who are telling us this are the same people who have been telling us this since the 80s. I mean, Rick Doty is now back in fashion. Hal Puthoff is, in the mix. Kit Green. It's the same players. So, I mean, like, what are we going to learn that's new? I know Lou is new and Graves and all these guys, but like, they don't have like any kind of clearance that is like outstanding to my knowledge. Like, so I don't know what people expect to happen, really.
Yeah. I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get edged. That's what's going to happen. They're going to just keep promising it, and it's never going to come. It's never going to happen. Like, that's the difference. Like, is that at least in edging, usually there's a payoff. There's none.
Yeah.
There's just blue balls. That's it.
Exactly. And that's fine if that's what you're into. But there's no informed consent here from the UFO community, because people think they're going to get something else, which is what makes it unethical. And why I have a real problem with it.
Well, I don't know. It sounds like maybe they've been talking to the Greys if they're going against consent.
That's true. Gray's not big on consent. You throw a mantis cuck in the corner and you've got yourself an abduction.
I've never heard. This is probably the first time anyone has ever described a mantis as a cuck.
They just stand in the corner and watch all the time. It's
Tobias
creepy.
does it every week. Yeah, that's.
I do. I find an excuse to mention them.
You're such a mantis head. You
Well,
love
he's got one at his house, I guess. I think he's probably there right now.
It just follows me around, watches from the corner.
Every time.
Yeah.
You might have mentioned that at the top, man. That's pretty big.
You get used to it.
Yeah, that's true.
He's just over it at this point. He's like, as long as you clean up after yourself, at least. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was my news. That's what I got. Tobias, you got something better for us?
Wow. You wouldn't think I'd be able to top that. But what I've got is an Illinois woman who reported a sighting of a humanoid creature with large grayish black wings while waiting in line at the Culver's drive-thru.
Oh my God.
Right. Just when you thought it couldn't get any weirder. So this report actually came from Unsolved Mysteries. So after we did Unsolved Mysteries, they collected a bunch of reports from people who reached out to them directly, and then they were nice enough to deliver those to Lon Strickler and myself, along with the people's contact info and everything. And so we've been contacting some people, and this is one of those. So this is the initial report that the witness sent to Unsolved Mysteries. It was March 5th, 2024, and I was going to Culver's for my free birthday burger with my son and was waiting at the drive-thru pickup window at about 5:30 p.m. It was turning dark, and I was looking at the sky when I saw this creature-like figure with large, grayish-black wings and gray muscular legs. It looked like it took a frog leap off of a rooftop and sprung through the air super fast and looked as if it landed 4 blocks southwest at a community park called Circle Park in Evergreen Park, Illinois. I felt compelled to report this sighting after my daughter informed me of the episode on Unsolved Mysteries about the encounters and sightings of Mothman in the Chicagoland area. So Lon actually had a chance to speak with this witness directly. And this is what he had to say. So she agreed to the use of her first name, Lisa. And she was real specific in their conversation about the location of this Culver's restaurant. It is the one at 9515 South Kedzie Avenue in Evergreen Park, Illinois. So, go to this Culver's, go through the drive-thru, see if you can spot Mothman. And I got to tell you, Culver's, for my money, is easily the best fast food chain. Like, it's not even close. So get yourself a butter burger. Get yourself some of the new hot honey cheese curds, and maybe see a Mothman. But anyway, so this thing, she gets into a little more detail, and she describes the creature's wings as angel-like, and said that they remained stationary, extending from its back throughout its short series of flights here. Because I guess it wasn't, flying so much as it was just jumping, right? It had very long legs, and the overall body was estimated at 7 feet in length, though it was large enough that she was able to see details. So she said that the legs were quite muscular and defined, and then reiterated that it was grayish black from head to toe. So Strickler said that overall, Lisa was very cooperative, precise, and forthcoming while describing her observation. So, here we have another, winged humanoid, Mothman, whatever you want to call it, sighting out of the greater Chicago metropolitan area as a result of the Unsolved Mysteries episode that aired last July. So, we've got well over 100 of these to work through right now.
Amazing.
And at least a couple of them now have led to people being willing to come forward and actually speak directly. There was the one we covered, 2 weeks ago, I think, that had the guy who said he saw it on a rooftop out of his apartment window. That one had some discrepancies between the report and the eyewitness testimony. So, take that with a grain of salt, I suppose. But, that doesn't really exist here. So, I don't know. It's interesting. And it's one of those two where, and I'm going to want you guys' opinion on this in just a second, but it strikes me how mundane the activity was that this witness was partaking in when she had her sighting. And we see that all the time. And on the surface, it's it's kind of funny. Like people see that and they laugh. They go, "Oh, you're in the Culver's drive-through," but that's the kind of shit that happens. Like people are just doing some boring, mundane thing and then run headlong into the impossible. Like that's the most common narrative. They're almost never looking for it, I guess. So anyway, thoughts.
Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this case or this event is amazing, and I could not agree with you more. It feels like, this is not a rule by any means, but like there are so many examples of like just this element of comedy with in absurdity with these encounters, and just by the very nature of this person being in a Culver's, to me, as on premise alone, is very funny.
Right.
Not the trauma they felt by saying this thing, and I'm not laughing at that, but like it's funny. So there's almost like this it does seem sometimes there's like this self-negating thing where they're going to add in like this thing, there's an element of where these things sound unbelievable on purpose. But for me, and I think people who've looked into this stuff long enough, when everything aligns too well, I kind of get skeptical. But if someone says like, look, I was playing miniature golf and a saucer hovered above me and like beamed up one of my friends, I would be like, well, I don't know if it's real, but the specificity and how open and mundane it was intrigues me.
Right.
So I totally see your point of like the mundane aspect of it being intriguing, and not saying like, well, that means it's real. They're obviously telling the truth, but it is just a pattern in some of these events that I find very interesting and quite entertaining. Like I do have my own pet theories on the surreal and absurd aspects of high strangeness, where I think it is part of how we remember things, because surreality and absurdism is not mundane, and it's crazy and weird. And I think part of it being weird and kind of funny sometimes is to help us remember, or not, or it's just absurd by design. But
sure,
I love it. That's a great case. Great piece of news.
Well, thank you. I think that people need to remember too that we don't live in a Hollywood movie. Right.
No.
Yeah.
There's nobody working on the script to make sure that the scene is taking place in appropriate setting for the events that are about to transpire. You know what I mean? Like shit happens at fast food restaurants sometimes. Shit happens when you're on the toilet, like it's not, there's nobody waiting around to make sure things only happen at like an appropriately dramatic time and place.
Right.
So yeah, I don't like when I hear a detail like that, I know people will think it's funny, but that's just life, dude. Like that's just the weird fucking world we live in. That's just existing in this universe. Nothing makes sense. Nothing is on fucking purpose. It's all just weird.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna opt that we don't call this Mothman or even a winged humanoid. I'm gonna opt that we call it the Culver creature.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love this. Is a rebranding I can get behind.
Somebody, I know you people are creative that listen to the show. Somebody needs to make a drawing of Mothman carrying a Culver's bag. Obviously. No, exactly. I mean, these things just happen. It's just like with any event. You know what I mean? Like I found out my dad died when I was watching Gremlins with my daughter. Like, you know what I mean? It just, I didn't sit down to watch Gremlins with her and just happened on the part where, the girl's talking about her dad dying. And then literally my mom calls me and I found out mine died, it just, that's just life. That's just the way it works sometimes.
Right.
So I don't really, it does seem kind of silly, but I'm just saying, how do we know that it wasn't also Mothman's birthday and he was there to get his free burger?
Right.
We don't know that. I mean, that's a possibility we have to consider. And did he get his burger? I don't think the witness reported seeing a Culver's bag or a delicious butter burger in Mothman's hand. I swear to God, Culver's doesn't pay me. I just really like them as a fast food chain better than every other fast food chain.
I don't have one close to me. I've never had Culver's.
They're the best. Like they make everything fresh. Like you wouldn't believe how much better it is than like, it's like it's like the sit down restaurant of fast food places.
Okay.
Oh, okay. There's one like 25 minutes away from me, so you're saying I should go out of my way one of these days and try it.
Yes. Do they currently have the hot honey cheese curds though?
I don't know.
Because you're going to want to try those.
Okay, hot honey cheese curd. Well, probably not. You're in Wisconsin. You guys have cheese curd everything there.
Yeah,
We
right.
do. Well, but like Culver's. Okay, Culver's is like full disclosure. Culver's is a Wisconsin chain that is branching out.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now the
Into,
truth's
like,
coming out.
Yeah, into the rest of like the Midwest. Nate is saying that Culver's cheese curds suck in the chat here. Now, okay, let's not all dogpile on Nate because he has a point. What a lot of people don't know is that Culver's changed their breading recipe for their cheese. Yeah, and not for the better. In my and most people's opinion on that. However, the hot honey cheese curds still good. Those are good. Like the regular cheese curds, I mean, better than nothing. They're better than what most other states have because most other states think that like rolling a fucking piece of string cheese and breadcrumbs counts as a fried cheese curd. But it's not, it's not up. It doesn't meet the bar we've set in Wisconsin. And unfortunately, doesn't even meet the bar that like Culver's had set for their cheese curds previously. But everything else is great. And I do like the hot honey cheese curds, so check those out.
I have to keep muting myself because I'm cracking. What is this? On Wednesdays, we talk cheese curds? Like, what are we doing right now?
I mean, I can if you want. I am a food-based person. Food first always.
Oh, we're all very Midwestern right now. Like we're having a very Midwestern moment.
Right. It feels good. It feels good and warm to me. This is like a nice blanket to me.
All the Midwesterners that listen to the show, they're like, I get it. Everybody else is like, what the fuck am I listening to?
Look, it's not my fault Mothman had to go and be seen in a fucking Culver's, okay? This is what happens.
Anyway, that I agree with Steve. That is some good news you got there, Tobias. Very tasty this week.
Yeah,
so
delicious.
That was fantastic. Well, let's get into it. Obviously, you guys noticed there's a third person here. Well, technically a fourth person here. Steve, why don't you go ahead and give just a quick introduction of who you are, what you do within the space of this community, and then we'll just fucking dive right into asking you too many questions.
Absolutely. My name is Steve Berg, and I'm like an actor, comedian dude, and I love high strangeness. And for Diana, I've been just into it. I don't remember a time being alive, not being like very into this stuff. I was one of those kids who read a lot, but like read a lot about this stuff mostly. I don't know. It's not like I grew up having any kind of dramatic experience, but I kind of have like thought about it like in my adult years, but I grew up in a house with like absolutely no religion or spirituality at all. And I think UFOs and Bigfoot and all this stuff was kind of my, need or want to maybe understand something greater than myself. But yeah. I love this stuff. I have a podcast called Hi Strangeness, like HI, Strangeness, like I'm saying hi to it. And I've had both of you on, and you guys were wonderful guests, and we had some great conversations. And yeah, I just love talking about this stuff. And having a podcast is really my excuse to talk to people like y'all and just kind of do thought experiments about what this all could mean. That's really fun to me. I do think like just speculating with like other knowledgeable people, to me, I always learn, a lot. I really do. And I do think like just doing like little salons, like, as they would in the old times, is important. I think like research and cases, but once you've read a lot of these cases and once you've, kind of done the basic, homework and got like a bachelor's degree in weirdo stuff, it is really nice to talk to people who are knowledgeable, because really until like up to like 3 or 4 years ago, I did not have that in my life. I kind of kept this stuff hidden a little bit. I wasn't very public about it because, like for a long time there was kind of a stigma, especially like I work in the entertainment industry, and like I think a lot of people assume like if you're into UFOs, then you're into like weird like right-wing conspiracy theories. I'm not even joking. Yeah. So I'm not. I am interested in extreme belief systems and cults and stuff like that, but like I am not interested in like right wing patriotism and stuff like that at all.
What? So you're not actively like anti-Semitic?
No, but you know, if you've been around this stuff long enough, you know there is unfortunately too many people who are
it's
don't
gross.
see the world the way I do, and we have very different morals and philosophies. So that in itself is actually interesting. Like why, and how people use UFOs. I always think about like, boy, I'm getting way off topic with who I am, but I guess I'm describing how all this stuff, because I'm interested in this stuff. Many different angles, like the phenomenon of it all itself, but also how it affects people. And, you know, just like an example of like Bill Cooper, who was this guy who made a big splash in UFOs in the 80s, like a very, very big splash. Like
speaking of anti-Semitic.
100%. And that's why I'm using him. But what happens is he's in the UFO community for about 2 years and like drops this like kind of bomb of a book that like changes things a little bit.
Hold a pale horse.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, he drops UFOs, says it's all fake and disinformation. And what it seems like to me, he used UFOs to start and foment a patriot movement and a militia movement.
Yep.
And like, I don't think people realize Bill Cooper actually had a massive impact on like militias and the patriot movement nationwide, because he had a shortwave radio station or a radio show where he would talk about like his ideologies and beliefs and like, the government's giving everyone AIDS and like, you know, stuff like that. I mean, he was Alex Jones before Alex Jones. You know, Alex Jones just ripped off Bill Cooper's shtick. So, I mean, like this guy who came in, injected himself in the UFO community, and then 2 years later, we are still feeling the ripple effects of Bill Cooper today. I mean, like, I really think he's not talked about enough in terms of like really muddying the waters and putting a lot of hate and just really unsavory ideas out into the world. And you can really see why we're kind of where we are today, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think Bill Cooper is actually globally a big contributor to this stuff. So,
oh, for sure. Like you can trace, like there are all kinds of storylines that kind of come directly out of his work. Like,
yes.
You know, you could draw a straight line from Bill Cooper to like Project Bluebeam. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because he was talking about how the government was going to stage all kinds of stuff, like as an excuse to do all kinds of shit, like take our guns, I think was a big one. Just all kinds of crazy right-wing talking points. And you still see that shit happening today, only now it's so ingrained in the culture of ufology that people don't even remember the source. They just take it for granted, you know, like it's just always been true.
Yep. Yeah. And the sad thing is, like, you know, I think I'm sure as you all know, it's like a lot of these like modern tropes of hate and paranoia and conspiracy, like ones that don't even seemingly have anything to do with the UFOs in 2024 come from ufology. I'm not even joking. Like you can really trace it back, going even back to the, you know, contactee era in the early 50s. Like, you know, what's his face? You know, George Hunt Williamson.
Okay.
He was part of the Silver Shirts, which was a Nazi group.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so if you can trace like Nazi affiliation with UFOs in America going back to the 1940s. So it's inextricably linked with UFOs, and I obviously hate that, but we can't ignore it. And I think you need to learn about this stuff so we can be careful and we can stop this stuff, because I hate it. I hate that it poisons ufology. I hate that it poisons Forteana, but it's if you need to acknowledge it. I think you need to understand it, I think.
Well, look at the okay, like speaking of drawing straight lines like through things that lead to other things, look at how New Age culture leads to natural medicine, leads to anti-vaxxing, leads to the January 6th fucking insurrection.
Yes.
You know, like again, you can draw a straight line through these things. And one of my big frustrations within the paranormal community as a whole, and that's encompassing ufology, cryptozoology, parapsychology, fucking all of it, is the encouraged and in some cases enforced ignorance that is endemic to these communities.
Yeah.
where people not only are sort of willfully ignorant, but if you try not to be, you are ostracized.
Yeah.
And any place where ignorance is prevalent is a fruitful garden, for like fascism to arise. Like, and that shit, it always happens. Like it is as predictable as the fucking sunrise. And yet here we are, like still having to tell people like, look, the reason that it's not okay to just like say, oh, it's fine to believe any stupid fucking thing you want is because sometimes the stupid fucking thing they want to believe is that some people don't deserve to fucking live like they do.
Yeah. There's a lot of extremism, and I think that, it's always kind of a given, I guess, because you're already opting to sort of research topics that are kind of extreme in nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it attracts those types, definitely, and fudging the facts is a-okay here. So why wouldn't they fudge the facts in other aspects of their life? Which is why obviously, here we have a platform where we choose to do better, or at least, as best as we can.
We're not actively promoting fascism.
No,
and that is a beautiful thing.
We're not. But it is changing. And I was going to say, I don't know, Steve, if you've noticed that, especially because you've taken on this role to kind of study that aspect of it, which is not one that I personally take on. It is something I run into. It has to be, but just not one I obsess over myself. But what do you think about that? Mothman's like a gay icon. You know what I mean? Like, we are definitely seeing, like, it's slow progression, but we're definitely seeing a lot of progression in these circles. Is that something you've taken notice of?
Gosh, well, here's the thing. I definitely like curate who I hang out with or have parasocial relationships with, like, you two. I really do carefully choose the people in this field I associate myself with or talk to or share information with, so my view, I think, is probably a little skewed to where, like, all my friends who are in ufology and Forteano, like, they're all cool, but people with wonderful hearts and, morally aligned with me. However, I will say, like, I went to a couple of Bigfoot conferences last year, and I felt like I was in the minority, if I'm being honest. There were just t-shirts that I found very offensive, and it felt a little misogynistic. And I'm not saying the whole community is that way, but I can't really tell that it's getting more like progressive, I guess. And that just might, like Tobias, I went to the Strange Realities conference. Now that's a group of people who I'm like friends with and know. So if I go to a thing like that, like, well, of course, it feels progressive and like moving in the right direction. But when I kind of go to something, pop in a general one, and I'm not saying always, but I have noticed a little bit of like, yo, that's pretty not cool to have on a t-shirt. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So
no,
I think yes and no, Ashley. I kind of think there is like a lot of people moving in like a really great accepting direction, of all people and all like belief systems and all walks of life. Yeah, I do think there is this other side that is getting even more xenophobic. I don't want to admit that. I don't mean to sound cynical, but like, that's just kind of from my vantage point what I'm, I guess, noticing, but I might be wrong.
Yeah. Well, it definitely feels that way, especially when you are, if you become the target of certain individuals or, if you're the minority. Ask me how I know as a woman in the community.
I'm so sorry. I'm sure it's filthy. I can't believe it.
Oh, I got some stories. I'm sure. And it's tough, because it's like, I want to call out people. I do, because we should, right? We should be holding them accountable. But the reality is, and this is a reality that I face all the time, is that, well, guess what? Their army's bigger than mine. What benefit is it going to give me to do that? So that's why we just slowly grow. And one of these days, we build our own, we have our own empire, and they can either get with the times or they can get the fuck out. So
I like that. I'm on your team.
That's where I'm at. You can visit my empire any day.
Please, I'm on your team. I'll live in your castle.
We'll have Culvers together.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds great.
And Goldbergs.
Yes, please. All the great sandwiches of the world.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, but you're absolutely spot on, though. I mean, there is a lot of that, and not even just like political extremism, religious extremism is another.
Absolutely,
is a big one. I mean,
you're right.
I made the joke earlier. Oh, it's obviously demons. Well, how often do people seriously say that? All the time.
Yeah.
How often do we hear that Bigfoot is a Nephilim or whatever? It's ridiculous.
Oh, see, no, that is a thing I heard at. I'm not even going to mention the Bigfoot conference, but like I had people, like I had a vendor table, which which was super fun. And ultimately, when I'm talking about this, it's not all disparaging. Most of the whole, like my experiences at these things are almost all positive. I'm just saying there's a couple interactions and a couple things I noticed that I find troubling, but like. I did have multiple people tell me, they're like, this is the Nephilim, right? And I'm like, well, no, I don't know that, sir or ma'am, but like, how do you know? And they're like, it's in the Bible. And they start like yelling at me. I'm like, oh my God, okay, like, fine, yes, I believe. What?
Right.
Please leave me alone.
Wiping their spit off your face as they're screaming at you. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's like literally happened to me. Like, a couple times.
It's that extremist personality, that's what it is.
Right.
And,
unfortunately they fucking try to ruin it for everybody, but we can't let them ruin it.
No. I brush it off, but I just, and I we don't need to harp on this, but like, I do think it is important and there are a couple people in, the kind of the Fortean community who kind of have made this their specialty.
Yeah.
Like, and I think I really applaud them. Like Jack Brewer and Erica Lukes, like I do think they are pointing out some of this stuff and in helping clean up, but giving the UFO community, especially a power washing, which I desperately think it needs because we all love this stuff. I mean, we're not like spending, you guys aren't doing a podcast because for the fun of it. Like you guys are passionate. I've heard this show. I've interviewed you both. Like you guys both know a lot and you love it. But like, I think if we love something, we should always aim to improve it and make it better and make it more inclusive for all people. So that's all.
I mean,
I agree. And it's okay to harp on it a little, like we don't have a set topic. So wherever the conversation goes is great.
Right.
And I kind of like that it's gone here because this is something that people are usually terrified to talk about. Like, but not me.
Normally,
I don't give a shit.
Yeah. We don't talk that deeply about, like, we kind of touch on some of the issues in the paranormal community, but we don't really dive into, the details so much. Right. And it's just because, it's not because, me and Tobias are both, I believe, on the same page about, if we say something that really upsets somebody, in that regard, fuck them. But
yeah, right. I mean, like you can't please everybody. You really can't.
There's a million other podcasts. Go listen to the other one. That's fine. If you hate that we are preaching, being inclusive in this community, that's a you problem, my guy. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely.
Anybody,
and it is a guy. I guarantee it.
Right. Anybody upset with like the idea of diversity or inclusivity, or acceptance, or tolerance, or critical thinking? Yeah, dude, fuck off. Like, why? Yeah. Why would I even want to interact with that person if they are violently opposed to any of those things? Now, if somebody has what they think is like a legitimate disagreement and they're capable of discussing that like an adult, like I'm open to having my mind changed with the introduction of new evidence. And as long as they are too, then sure, like we can have a productive conversation. But yeah, if like some dick just wants to scream at me because like I'm not a transphobe or something, then yeah, fuck all the way off. Like, and then just keep fucking off like forever.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not doing that here. That's just not welcome. But anyway, let's get back to some fun things. So you are based. Tell everybody where you're from, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, sure, no problem. I am originally from Omaha, Nebraska, and then I lived in Los Angeles for a little over 20 years. And a few years ago, I moved back here to be closer to my mom and dad. And so I live in Omaha again, and I love it. It's so great to be back in the Midwest. I love LA. I still have to go out there quite a bit for work, but I am really enjoying Four Seasons and kind of being back in my roots. And like I tell you, I think when you're born in a place with Four Seasons, your like body and mind become like wired to that novelty and change. And I missed that when I lived in LA. Like everyone's like, oh, the weather must be great. Like it bothered me. There's no rain. There's no snow. Like, you know, I didn't get to put my fun sweaters on, you know, like, so, I mean, like, I really am like, you know, it's so nice to be back in Nebraska. And, you know, since I've been back here, you know, my greatest hobby has been trying to document all the folklore, mythology, weird stories, Forteana I possibly can. So I spend a lot of free time doing that.
Because there's not a lot of you out in Nebraska doing that.
No, you know, there was like a trio of really fine, great researchers doing it, but two of them have since died. And one of the guys, Scott Colburn, rest in peace, great human being. He had everything. He had like all the folklore, all the UFO stuff. And when he died, his kids didn't care and they threw it all away.
Oh my God.
You know, so I have this like paranoia of these stories disappearing. So I've been working with kind of the last remaining like true Fortean. There's other like MUFON people who live in, but they're very, they won't give me anything. They won't give me anything. Like I've taken them out to lunch and tried to butter them up. Yeah. They will not give me like a single case or anything. They won't share anything with me, unfortunately, which is, I find very frustrating. But, this guy, I've been trying. He is not well. He's older and he's sick, and so I've been talking to a local college, and they are going to take everything he has. So he feels better about the situation because all his life's work isn't just going to disintegrate. And it shouldn't just all go to me. I think it should be shared with everyone as research material. So I feel very happy and proud that I've been able to get it into the anthropology department at the University of Nebraska. So that's pretty exciting. Very
cool. Yeah, I mean, there really isn't a lot. I'm not going to say there's not a lot happening in Nebraska because it has its own stories. But they're just, people don't really know about them, you know? No. And that's unfortunate. You know, we used to do a series over on the Patreons it was called Weird World, and we would go through the different states and just talk about all the different, you know, weird things about that state. And, you know, I was excited to get into places like that, like, because I can't tell you one story off the top of my head that happened in Nebraska. Tobias, can you?
No, not off the top of my head, but if I were to say want to listen to this series, like where would I go to do that?
That's right. Yeah. Patreon.com/Wednesdays Talk. You can go hear that series over there. That me and Pat O did a good chunk of it, but I don't even think we got halfway through. So, you know, hopefully I can convince Tobias to do more work and do it with me one of these days.
If we get enough Patreon followers, I definitely will.
Yeah, we got to make it worth the time, you know. So, and then maybe if we cover something like Nebraska, we can have Steve on, and he can help with it.
I'll yap all day.
But you know, Patreon.com/Wednesdays Talk. So, what's your Steve? What's your favorite stories out there?
Well, you know, oh boy, you know, oh my gosh, that's so hard. It is. I know. I love so many, but I'm trying to think of ones that are like, you know, deeper cuts, so I'm not like retreading old ground. I'll tell you a little story about Nebraska if you want to hear a flying winged humanoid story.
Oh, we love flying winged humanoids on the show.
Okay, so in 1957, this guy by the pseudonym of Mr. Hanks was driving back into Falls City, Nebraska with a car full of groceries for his family. And as he's approaching this small little town, it's right at the southeastern part of Nebraska, so it's almost like in the Kansas border, really. But he's driving back, and he notices like a kind of a big black, what looks black to him, like a large bird. And this guy's like, that's kind of weird. So he keeps on clocking it, kind of driving slowly, and the thing all of a sudden like starts to descend rapidly and like wobbling, looking like it's having like problems. And so then he stops his car and watches this thing. He's like, what the hell is this? This thing is gigantic. Is it like, you know, whatever they call some kind of turkey vulture or something like that. So anyways, he gets out of his car and he starts watching it more, and this thing flies overhead pretty low to him, and he notices it's a 9-foot tall, leathery skinned, what he called demonic looking creature. There we go, demons again. And it had piercing blue eyes. But here's the best part to me. This wasn't like the Mothman or most flying wing humanoids. The wings were like a shoulder harness with leather straps, and it had like this grid-like system of wings, these really large wings, but it was an apparatus this creature was wearing. And then on its chest, it had, and this is 1957, had like a crude-looking computer with like buttons and knobs. And this thing was like aggressively turning the knobs like what he thought was trying to course correct. And then the thing gets really low to the ground, and Mr. Hanks is paralyzed. Not with fear, but he said physically paralyzed. And then sometime later, the creature like is wobbling really low to the ground. It does course correct itself and then flies off. He becomes unparalyzed. And this messed this guy up. He said afterwards, I'm just kind of paraphrasing, not giving all the juicy tidbits, but afterwards he said to I'm not supposed to say the name of the guy who actually took the story in. Okay. Ray Boucher is the guy who I got the story from, but he didn't actually take the case. But this guy said that he ended up was always working like 2 or 3 jobs because he could not sleep. For the rest of his life, he said he had nightmares every time he went to sleep of this creature. So he just said, I became an insomniac. All I wanted to do was work, so I would never have to sleep. Huh. And and it's just a weird case. I know, Tobias, you probably know more about Mothman and a hell of a lot about flying wing humanoids. But I know there is like 1 or 2 other instances where the creature that was flying was wearing an apparatus and it wasn't organic wings. But I find that so fascinating that it was the technology seemingly that was causing it wasn't the creature being injured physically, but it was like the technology that was like on the fritz. And I just think that is so damn interesting. I love it. I can't stop thinking about it.
Right? Is it okay? But here's my hot take.
Sure.
Is it just me, or is there a lot of sexual tension in that story? The piercing blue eyes, the fiddling with knobs. He's paralyzed, right?
I mean, I had never thought about it from that angle, but you're not wrong.
Yeah, I was waiting for him to kiss.
I mean, I wish that would be such a great way for this to all end up.
Kissed.
Yeah, and then they kissed.
Yeah.
Went off to the sunset. They drove that car of groceries away and had a great meal on a lovely little hillside, and
opened a bottle of wine. Yeah, just let nature take its course. But no, I mean, it is interesting. Anytime you hear about any kind of mechanical or technological apparatus, my favorite part of that is that it's literally just all like sci-fi technology from the 50s,
totally
that it's using, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's making it up. I just, I think that if there is like any truth at all to something like the trickster or ultra terrestrial hypothesis that people are so high on these days, then sure, it makes sense for it to appear sort of in the guise of its era, right? Or the era in which the encounter is taking place. I've certainly seen a few reports of flying humanoids that involved technological gadgets and gewgaws and things like that before. I received one directly. This didn't involve wings, though. This was a humanoid that was flying on what looked to be a scooter.
Whoa.
Yeah, and down in Springfield, Illinois. This is a weird one, actually. I won't take a lot of time on it because like you're the guest, but like it was a weird report where this guy was out walking along these train tracks, and like if you're familiar sort of with the like the Oz effect.
Like Jenny Randall's.
Yeah. And like things started to get all weird, and the landscape seemed to change. And then like the trees started moving, and he thought the trees were trying to grab him or like hem him in. And they were just swaying all weird. And he sees this light, and then like the light is chasing him. And then he sees that it's like this humanoid, or I guess basically human, like a guy on like this flying scooter. Just the weirdest damn story. But I talked to the guy like directly, and boy, he didn't have any of the qualities you look for in somebody who's making a story up. Like none of them, zero. So it, by all appearances, was an authentic experience that this person had had. I don't know what it represents, but yeah, no, that shit happens. It's, I don't know. It's weird.
I love that.
The modern day equivalent now is like Jetpack Man.
Yes.
Yeah, like Mexico, like those flying humans.
Right.
Well, LA.
In LA. LA
yeah.
had, you're darn tootin' it
Those are
did.
more recent.
In fact, actually, I was it happened right the first sighting happened like, I think it was like a week after the lockdown. So like in mid to like, third week of March or something like that. And I was living in LA at the time. And I remember like saying, I gotta go, like, I'm on this. I mean, how do I investigate that first off? But like, I think I was so like depressed about the pandemic that was like my thing that was like giving me some joy is that story. Sure. But it really was kind of a weird story though. Like, because like, pilots were seeing this thing. It was like hovering over like downtown LA at like, pretty high altitudes.
Yeah, a couple times too. I mean,
couple times. You're darn right.
It wasn't just like the one occurrence, and it was at altitudes that surpass any known jetpack technology that we have currently. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's very similar to that. If you want to go back in time instead of forward in time, look at Spring Hill Jack with his weird shoes. Right, he was obviously just a pervert with weird shoes, but. But we consider that some type of supernatural in some way, because where the fuck else are we going to put that? That's
Totally.
But it is definitely, I mean, it's something that we see even now. It's just part of the modern folklore. And what's up with that?
Yeah, I love it though. Like I am just like, and this is just my own personal 40 and proclivity, but the weirder the better for me. Like I'm attracted to like the deep weird of this stuff.
Yeah, that's where I love the weird one-off stories, that nobody ever talks about.
Me too.
And will we ever get to the bottom of it? No, and that's okay.
The mystery is the point, perhaps. So,
the weirder, the better. No, I think
agree.
that's great. I've never heard of that before. I mean, like I said, I can't really tell you too many stories I've heard out of Nebraska. So that's a really neat one. What kind of cryptids do you guys have? I'm sure you got Bigfoots.
We surprisingly have a lot of Bigfoot sightings. In fact, my kind of like I would say colleague, John Kudis, he is like Bigfoot extraordinary. He's probably the best and coolest Bigfoot researcher in Nebraska. But so we go out together a lot. We share a bunch of research. We have like a Google Doc just about Nebraska Bigfoot where we drop our stories and drop details and drop articles in from newspapers.com and whatnot. But Nebraska, I mean, like, I don't know how well you guys know the geography of it. Probably not, but it is what you think it is. It is flat with not a lot of forest.
Yeah.
A lot of cornfields, a lot of like agriculture, but it is mostly flat. So it's not one of those states. I guess you're a flesh and blood Bigfoot person. You would say like, no way. How could Bigfoot be there? And I agree. Like, it doesn't seem like it would be able to hide it. However, there are sightings going back to like the late 1890s that I have, where they describe it as 7 foot tall, wild man covered in fur. And so there are quite a few Bigfoot stories, and also a lot of them lately. Like I was just about to say, my friend, I think about 10 days ago, took in a report that happened like the day before he got the report. And it was in the exact same area where people have quite a few Bigfoot sightings. And they're not publicized ones. They're ones that we've just taken in. So it's not like it's like public knowledge, really, that there's a Bigfoot phenomenon in this area. So it was really neat. I was actually out of town, but my partner went and checked out the area. He didn't find anything. But yeah, we have a Bigfoot scene, like for real here. It's quite amazing.
Very cool. Well, I can't say I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Bigfoot's everywhere,
Right.
Bigfoot
right.
Are there any states that don't have a Bigfoot scene at this point? That's the question.
That'd be fucking weird, right?
Right. Totally. I mean, you really probably couldn't think of one, and I would always tell folks, like, in terms of like, there's no definitive website of like how many reports. Like if you look at the BFRO, I think they list about 15 Bigfoot cases. I mean, I have like over 100 myself, and and I'm always getting like, because I do a lot of like cold case research, looking through newspapers.com and like talking to historical societies and looking through old like Nebraska newspapers.
Yeah,
and I every time I think I've found all of them, I keep on finding new stuff. I try a new keyword search, and then boom, I get like 2 more cases. So it's one of these things where like I think BFRO in like for example like New Fork or MUFON, I don't think like they're not the arbiter of all the UFO data for a particular state at all. Like
no,
so
they have what's been reported to them, and that's it.
To them, and then in this and I do think like a friend of mine who has been in BFRO for over a decade. He's like they throw away any case that has any kind of woo. So if there's orbs of light associated with it, or there's any kind of like high strangeness symptoms around this sighting, they do not report those. And I'm pretty sure that MUFON is the same way for the most part.
Yeah, MUFON does not give a shit about things that fall outside of their paradigm.
Yep. That's bad research, in my opinion.
It's not my favorite thing. It's a big part of why I stopped being a field investigator for MUFON forever ago at this point.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's another thing I've seen sort of with the like the Mothman phenomenon here in the Midwest is some of the reports have gone to MUFON, and the way that they handle them is just not conducive to like witness participation. You know what I mean? Like they just clearly don't give a shit about anything that isn't like ET craft, basically.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the issue with these systems. And then what are you going to do? You're going to go make another one? I mean, you're going to go make another reporting system. It sounds great on paper, but then it just muddies the waters. I mean, the reality of it is that it's a collaborative effort amongst the community, and we need to share our data together, and come up with it together. And there is no Ghostbusters. There's no one person that you can report this stuff to. And I mean, how many people die with their experiences because of the stigma, or because they don't know who to report it to?
Right. I could not agree with you more. I am all about sharing. I am an open book. If anyone's from Nebraska or is like wants to corroborate something from a bordering state, or just wants to learn more about Nebraska, I am happy to show you everything I have. Because I will learn from showing other people. I always do. And I do think aside from getting to talk to people like you on my podcast, the kind of second greatest result has been that, not like probably either of you or Tobias, I know you get a lot of reports. I have now started to get like people reaching out to me via social media or my podcast email, giving me their stories about, about Nebraska. And that has been so wonderful. So like, if anything, look, I'm not making $1 off my podcast, but like I'm getting all these stories, and that to me is invaluable. So yeah, it's been a real treat.
You're the Nebraska. If I get reports from Nebraska, I'm sending them over to you because you're the guy.
Ashley, thank you. I appreciate that.
You can check them out.
I'm not. I'm hoarding them all for myself.
Yeah, Tobias
all of the precious stories. I'm going to put them all in a pile in my living room, and I'm going to sit on them like a dragon.
Unless you can blow Nebraska wide open. Come on, man.
Unless you go to patreon.com/Wednesdays Talk, Tobias will release his entire archive.
I'll read them out loud to you like a bedtime story.
Otherwise nobody gets it.
That's right.
Yes.
No, of course I would share.
I know you would.
I am happy. I'm the same way. I'm happy to like share information with people. The only thing that bugs me is when people like reach out and they just want me to do a bunch of research for them.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, fuck you, man. I don't work for you. Yeah. Do your own goddamn work. Like basically everything I have that I could ethically share with people has been published. Go read my articles, read my books. It's going to be in there because I'm not sharing people's personal like information with anybody. Like that's just not going to happen. These people trust me, and I'm not going to betray that for some random internet stranger who wants to be like the next paranormal celebrity. Like eat shit. That's not happening.
Yeah, you gotta prove yourself a little. But I will say that's how I met Tobias. I heard about I was doing the Mothman research here locally throughout Ohio, throughout West Virginia. I needed somebody that was into the Mothman stuff happening up in the Lake Michigan area, and came across Tobias Whalen. And I thought, man, that'd be a great guy to have on the team. And now we do a podcast together. So
It's true.
See, now you're sharing your information, you're making connections, making buddies. It's a beautiful thing.
you gotta make
Absolutely.
buddies. But it's hard to vet people, and it
Totally.
can be exhausting sometimes. But
Yeah. Just anybody who is an honest researcher, I'll know, and we're going to be cool. And if you are the next, paranormal celebrity wannabe, I'll know that too, and we won't be cool. So
exactly. Because it's got to be. I mean, that's the thing about it, is that you don't have to have the exact same opinions as your fellow researchers.
not.
And theories, of course. But you have to be able to get along. I mean, geez,
Like, are you someone I could eat a Culver's burger with? That's kind of the test.
Exactly.
Can you toast bread properly? This is important.
Doesn't have to be perfect like Goldberg's, but
I mean, we're not asking the impossible.
So, Steve, you have never had a weird experience. Is that right? You've never had anything strange?
Well, I kind of have in the last couple of years. Nothing dramatic, but I will say this summer I spent the night in a cave in Kentucky. And it was really horrifying, to be honest. Like, it was not like the most fun experience because it was very scary. But we kept on thinking we heard, and it definitely could have been there was water running through there, and it just could have been sounds tricking us. That maybe is the most likely explanation for it. However, there was 4 of us, and we all kept on hearing what sounded like a teacher and a bunch of students, down in the. Yeah, it sounded like there was a classroom down in this dark cavern. It was a very big cave, right? And so we're all sleeping in tents in there, and we heard it once it got dark. We heard this for hours, and it was very uncomfortable. And it's a cave that's known. It's on private property. I can't say a whole lot about it right now. But it's on private property, and we had a guide taking us in there, and is famous for Bigfoot sightings and orbs of light and a lot of other weird stuff. A group of Cub Scout kids drowned in there back in the 60s. So it's just one of those kind of at least narratively charged places. So obviously I did, I'm all psyched up, expecting to see something, but it was so scary that we didn't really do much investigating because it took us about an hour to hike into this place. So we were an hour away from cars. And there was no trail, so we were bushwhacking. So we could not have gotten out of there at all, at night.
Wow.
And so you felt really trapped in a cave, and then hearing those voices. We were going to go up to the mouth of the cave and then do some searching around, because that's where people have had these encounters. Even our guide has had 2 Bigfoot encounters there, allegedly. And we were too nervous to go up there. Honestly, it was so scary. I felt like I was going to die down there.
Wow.
Not something I would do again. But I did hear voices, that, and we all 4 did. So I guess that's kind of a weird thing. And then about a year ago, I was with a handful of other people, and I saw a light in the sky do some pretty phenomenal things. But it's not one of those things where it doesn't feel like confirmation to me. It's I saw some weird stuff. I heard some weird stuff. It was nothing dramatic or confirmational to me at all, I have to admit. But yeah, I mean, I've had weird things at that kind of degree, I would say it was maybe C- weird stories.
Interesting.
Nothing great. I know, Ashley, we talked to my show, you've had some, up close and personal, real deal stuff. I've had nothing like that.
Tobias has too. Yeah, we just did a whole episode talking about his experiences. So both of our experiences, but yeah, he's we're both experiencers.
Yeah.
Of the strange. So it's
well, I'm so sorry, but I mean to cut you off, but I have found the more I guess since the pandemic, really, in that liminal period when I kind of I started doing this podcast at the beginning of the actor strike because I couldn't work and I knew I was going to be out of a job for a year.
Sure.
So I was like, I got to do something productive. I was always wanted to do a podcast, blah, blah, blah. But since I've really started to like kind of like go deep on this stuff and actually put myself into positions to experience the stuff by going to, southwestern Pennsylvania where a lot of this weird stuff happens, or down in eastern Kentucky where a lot of this weird stuff happens, etc. I have found that like now that I'm engaging more with it, I am having a lot more weird experiences. So I think there is something to it. It's like if you do go looking for it, you have a better chance of finding it, obviously. But I am finding that I'm now like I have a feeling something is just going to get weirder from here on out for me, to be honest. Like, and I'm excited about that.
And there's nothing wrong with, not having a solid experiences. Yeah, I would say that me and Tobias both are believers because we experienced it, and not we were believers and then we were, validated by our experiences in that belief. And so, but there's absolutely nothing wrong. I mean, it's a good thing for the community. If we could make this stuff happen, like we would induce it all the time, right? But we can't.
I want, since you guys have actually had, do you mind if I ask y'all a question really quick? Because I'm just so curious about this. You both have had dramatic experiences, right? And I want to ask you this. Do you believe this happened, or do you know it happened? Because I think there is a difference. Like when I think of belief, it kind of requires maybe an act of, or sort of an act of faith. But I feel like when you experience something that dramatic like you guys have, it happened. Like, is it a knowing or a belief for you guys?
Well, I can say definitively, without a doubt, that the things that have happened to me happened to me.
Uh-huh.
But anything beyond that, like any narrative applied to it, would fall into the realm of belief. And I try not to have a lot of beliefs, because it's not super helpful. But the experiences themselves happened. That's
a knowing, right?
Yes. Like if they happened just like this conversation is happening when I think of it tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like they are as real in my mind as anything else, seemingly more mundane, has ever been. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some experiences where, I question the reality of what actually happened. And just know that I have a way of remembering it a certain way, but, logically I know it could be a million and one things that could explain it away. But very specifically when it comes to any of the strangeness I've encountered and involved with the Mothman specifically, I know that it happened.
Yeah.
And, I hate that because I do, like, it really is a curse because, when I started doing this, it's because I objectively knew that this was going on and I wanted to share that with the world so badly. And I can't without proof, just because I tell you that I know, doesn't mean that you're going to be like, oh, yeah, she knows. So it's real. It doesn't work that way.
Right. But that's fascinating in and of itself because like, Carl Jung, like over and over again from when he first started publishing, he was like, he would use himself as an example. He's like, I don't believe in God. I know there is a God. And so he would always kind of use it as a jumping off point to kind of like differentiate between the two. And I think like you can know something happened. Like now, was the event literally what you witnessed and experienced when you're with your five senses? We don't know that for sure, but like an event took place, you know what I'm saying? And that is a knowing of a certain kind. And I think that's really interesting, Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Like there, and this is the approach that I take with witnesses, it's that the credible witnesses with whom I have spoken have experienced something they can't explain. What that something is, I don't know. And frankly, neither does anybody else. But they experienced something, and it's not usually as simple as just easily explaining it away with some prosaic explanation, right? If it was that simple, then we would do it and move on. And I have, like when that is the obvious and true solution. But often we are left with seemingly authentic experiences with no simple explanation. That doesn't mean that they can't be something like, I don't know, a new or novel type of hallucination that's not
Right.
widely recognized, or something similar, some kind of like just something that fits into the current scientific model, right?
Sure.
But we don't know that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like we don't know that to be true any more or less than we know any other more extreme narrative to be true. But what we do know is that people are experiencing something. Like the way I put it for me is, if I was hallucinating when I had my experiences, I might be hallucinating this conversation right now.
Right.
You know?
Well, you are. We're not real. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we're not
Damn it.
real. FYI, pal.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you.
Right? Well, cat's out of the bag.
Come on now.
Yeah.
You think Nate can really beat up skinwalkers with his bare hands? Come on now.
I do. I need to believe that.
Well,
No, he can,
you know,
so.
just to like jump on kind of what you're saying, like I do believe this, and I mean this with 100% sincerity. If all this stuff that we love and we talk about and read about, you know, all the high strangeness, Fortiana, if it all is a mass hallucination that just, and throughout time immemorial, that these stories are the same but a little bit different and they evolve and change a little bit, if it's all a mass hallucination, that is just as interesting to me as an external phenomenon.
Agreed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, what does that mean then? That like we, as you know, as human beings collectively can fish around in the sea of archetypes and project something that people can see, experience, taste, and touch. That is crazy too. So
Yeah.
no matter no matter what the stuff, and that's why like I think it's so good to not have fixed beliefs in any of this stuff. And you can have ideas that you're excited about at a certain moment, but like I think if you're honest with yourself and do a lot of research, those will change too. You know,
Mhm.
so
They should, right? That's the
Yeah.
responsible thing. And that's what I tell people all the time. I have a personal opinion and I have a professional opinion.
Mhm.
And they're both very different. You know, of course, I have theories and ideas of what I think, you know, some of this stuff could be. But professionally, there's not one thing that I am absolutely certain that I know about. Because if I did, I wouldn't have to be begging you guys to go sign up for my Patreon. I would be very rich and popular and very cool. So,
I think you're very cool.
oh, thank you. You know,
Sincerely.
but yeah, I mean, none of us have gotten it right yet. So, for any of us to have an ego so massive to think that we are right compared to everybody else, that's just check that shit at the door of my empire because you're not invited either.
Oh,
No
for real.
Culver's Burger for you.
Well, you see that shit in the paranormal community all the time, though.
Mhm.
You know, you'll hear people say stuff like, you know, instead of saying seeing is believing, why don't you try believing is seeing? And
Right.
I'm like, well, because that's fucking not real, dude.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
just
like
stupid.
you're if you're gonna go down that route, like you're gonna find yourself in the same occupying the same space as like climate change denialists and COVID denialists and flat earthers and shit. And you know, that is to say, like, that's fucking stupid. Like
Yeah.
you're making yourself stupider when
Yeah.
you try to like enforce that kind of bumper sticker philosophy.
Yeah.
It's just not science. Like you're
No.
not academically researching this stuff at all. And
Yeah.
you know, if that's the case, that's fine. But like, just own that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I mean, it's
just
also
making
bad
stuff up.
philosophy and bad artistry. It's like,
Yeah.
I think like that's why I'm not trying to get back to the disclosure movement, but like I cannot imagine ever, like, let's say like, you know, President Biden or President Trump, whoever's in power at the time, comes out and says exactly what you want to hear, confirming all these like, you know, X-Filesian narratives or whatever it is. Is that answer from them good enough for you? Like they know what it represents. They know the whole story. Sorry, endgame. Oh, by the way, we also know what happens after you die. It's like, how credulous can people be to think they know the answer to, like, I mean, I guess aside from death, it's like the second greatest mystery to us is, what is this stuff? What is it literally what it is? What does it represent? Is it real? Are we part of it? Does it exist without us? Like, I can't imagine the federal government coming out with an answer that is going to appease all that for me, and then should be able to show the data and the evidence for it. So,
believing things without evidence is fucking stupid, and you need to knock it off, everybody.
Just knock it off.
That's all I'm saying. That's my point.
Well, it's no surprise that disclosure is having this hot moment while we're in this kind of post-fact world. I mean, I think we have to think about that too. Like, it's, it's not a surprise to me.
Yeah,
right.
It is very strange.
You can entertain a possibility. And I think that it is the mark of a discerning, nuanced intellect to be able to entertain a possibility without fully accepting it. So if people say, hey, or if people hear me say something like, believing in things without evidence is stupid, I'm not saying, oh, you can't entertain the possibility of Bigfoot or Mothman or UFOs or ghosts or any of it. No, you should entertain the possibility. That's just being open-minded. But once you lock in on a definitive definition of what those things mean and what they represent, that's when you have crossed the line into idiocy, because you don't have any fucking evidence to support definitively any strict position on any of those phenomena. And anybody who says they do is a grifter.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's what I was going to say. The issue comes in, objectively, you can believe in whatever you want to believe in. That is up to you. You're the one that has to live with that. And if you want to believe in something that's not backed by any evidence at all, that's fine. But when you start imposing that belief on other people, and you start becoming aggressive because of those beliefs towards other people, because and even though you can't prove that that's when you start becoming the grifter, and we don't need that here. If you really are passionate about these topics, you need to take an academic approach to these topics, and academia requires evidence.
Yeah.
What?
It does. It requires evidence. I know that's crazy, and we should take a page out of cryptozoology's book on this, because we don't talk about it a lot on this show. We do from time to time, but some of the things when we look at, quote unquote cryptid discoveries, there have been cryptids that have been proven to exist, but when we find out they exist, the stories fall apart. And I will bring up my favorite character, the giant squid. Mm-hmm. And it went from the Kraken to the giant squid, right? It went from this monster that attacks boats, and it's more octopi than squid. And then we actually found it. We're like, oh shit, this is an actual thing. It does exist. And probably it wasn't trying to attack boats. It was just dying because they live in such deep pressure water that they're having a hard time flailing around. That's when we found out what the reality was of it. And so even some of these stories were probably kind of have an idea of what's going on, if any of it is real, but it's probably not as crazy as we think it is. Like, there probably isn't a 10-foot Bigfoot. But is there a 5 to 7 feet primate living in North America? That is a lot more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Whatever, nerd.
I know, right?
me and 10-foot Bigfoot are totally going out this weekend. And we're gonna get laid.
You know what? If you don't shut the fuck up, I'm gonna bring my 15-foot Bigfoot to come kick your 10-foot Bigfoot's ass. All right.
Oh shit.
What are you gonna do, man?
Your move.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But either way, they're both gonna have really tiny penises. So
it's true. Well, they're innies. They're like dog dicks. They're like little flesh lipstick tubes. So we did a lot of research on this, Steve. So
really I can tell. I'm making notes. We
really did.
Right. Well, okay. What people don't know about primate physiology is that many species of apes have weird dicks, and some of them are like dog dicks, where they're like kind of innies and they're in these weird sheaths and they only come out when erect. And what you never hear people talk about is Bigfoot hanging big dong, right? Like because it's not like he's wearing pants. Nobody's ever like, oh man, I saw Bigfoot and he was wearing a leopard print Speedo. So Bigfoot is always naked and nobody ever sees his dick. So what does that tell us? Well, if we compare it to like other like primates, specifically like certain species of apes, then he probably has a weird dog dick.
Yeah.
I mean, my mind is blown. I'm speechless over here.
Speechless.
This changes everything for me.
I mean, but it's true. Nobody ever talks. We even have like stories of like Bigfoot raping women or whatever, which is horrible. He shouldn't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
But like, they don't report what his penis was like. I mean, I'm just saying. But so we, of course, deep dived it. Like Nate said, we all spent a long time looking at different primate penises to try to come up with what Bigfoot's dick might look like, and we determine that it's tiny. And every man that listens to the show, which is pretty much all of you, will everybody rejoiced in the fact that humans actually have the bigger penises out of all the primates. So
we did it.
I didn't know that.
That's right. First on the moon, biggest ape dicks. Everything's coming up human.
That's what it is. It was the penis that helped us evolve. So it was.
Man.
Anyway, you learn something new every day.
Yeah. I mean, look, I have some new threads to pull here.
You said you had a lot of Bigfoot out there. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, I love to learn. And I'm a sponge for this.
Yeah. I mean, that's, just go out in the woods and start screaming, tiny wiener or something. And
yeah.
Maybe he'll bluff charge you,
Yeah. Wouldn't that be great?
Anyway,
right.
So back to, I do want to touch on one more topic that you kind of touched on in the very beginning when you introduced yourself. I'm very curious because you kind of mentioned getting your start into this. You feel like you were potentially influenced by your upbringing because you didn't really have a religious household or anything like that, which is awesome and not something that you hear about a lot. I mean, in general, you are a cryptid in America, especially.
Yeah, especially for being a Midwest boy, I guess,
Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah, it is.
And then you talked about you were out doing, this high strangeness stuff with your family. I mean, are they all into these topics?
No, not at all. My dad has a science background, and my mom was supportive because she was a school teacher, and she was just she noticed that I would read these books voraciously. Mm-hmm. And so she would buy me kind of all the UFO weirdo books I wanted because she's like, look, he's reading. I mean, I was a little kid, 8 or 9 going into Walden Books, which is our local chain here.
Fuck yeah. Walden Books. I used to buy my AD&D books there when I was in junior high.
Boom. Yeah. I didn't know you. Okay. I wasn't even sure if it was out in Nebraska. That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But I would go over to my mom and I would walk in and I would run over to the occult/new age section. And I'm sure my mom was getting dirty looks from the people who were working there, because within reason, she pretty much buy me any book I want. I was reading weird Bud Hopkins abduction books, before I should have been. I mean, they were terrifying me, to be honest, but I couldn't get enough of it. I just really, and the thing is, when I was young, I sort of believed all of it. I thought it was,
sure.
I would finish a book and then run downstairs Dad, why are we not talking about Bigfoot? This is crazy. How come no one's talking? It's not in the news. And he's like, oh my God, just go play football like a normal kid or something.
Right.
But yeah, no, they were actually supportive, but no one in my family and none of my friends were into this stuff at all too. So at a young age, once I realized this stuff wasn't cool, quote unquote, especially in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Once I realized this stuff was not cool, it was only going to get you made fun of. I really would just go to local UFO lectures at the local college in secret. I would drive an hour, or my mom would take me to a UFO conference in Lincoln, Nebraska, but I wouldn't tell my friends I was going. I didn't talk about it at school the next day. So it really until 3 or 4 years ago, I was a closet weirdo sort of. I mean, my close friends knew I liked the stuff. I could, when people don't have even nowadays, I still kind of struggle with it. Where people be so you believe in all? They're hey man, I believe in aliens now too with all this stuff. I'm like, oh cool. I'm not saying, and they're so you believe in aliens and all this stuff. I'm like, well, not exactly. Do you have 5 hours for me to explain it to you?
Right.
So it's and I always say well, I don't believe in any of it. I don't have a belief system wrapped up with any of this stuff, and I do mean that sincerely. I think there's something probably to it. But I have no evidence to prove that any of this stuff exists. And like even the evidence that I'm kind of shown still is a little unimpressive to me, I suppose.
Right.
But like I do think, and I actually will almost say like I know there's something to it, but I don't know what it is. And I'm not even sure if like the literal representations like a disc in the sky or a Bigfoot in a forest is actually what that is. If that's not just a representation of an archetype that it's using to show us something strange and unusual. So like that's how like woo I guess I get with that. Like right now I am super, super deeply fascinated by the idea of hyperstitions. And for the listeners, in case they don't know, hyperstition is like a fiction that can become real. And I think there's something to it. Even if you just look at the story of Jesus, whether Jesus even existed as a historical figure or not, there's not actual real great evidence that he was even real, right? But it's become real. It's accepted, by many, many millions of people that this is a real story. That is kind of an example of a hyperstition. And even like Slender Man is kind of a modern hyperstition to a certain degree for like some people. But like I'm interested in the role of hyperstition in stories and narrative and folklore in High Strangeness and Forteana because I do think they're inextricably linked. I'm not saying that like High Strangeness emanates from a place of fiction, but I think fiction is definitely wrapped up in this stuff and how we experience it.
Well, I've never heard the term hyperstition. Tobias, have you heard that term before?
Yes. I would also like to say, for any Christians listening, address your hate mail to Steve Berg.
Right,
Go ahead
right.
and send it to On Wednesdays We Talk Weird, and we will forward it to him.
But
all opinions expressed by Steve Berg are his and not necessarily representative of us here on Wednesdays Talk Weird. But yes, please continue.
No, but even that is like you're proving my hyperstitional point though, kind of like because it can be offensive to people if you question.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? But like,
I'm just
not
kidding,
saying
man.
no. Of course you are. Of course you are. I guess what I'm saying is, do I think there was a real flesh and blood Jesus figure? I think very likely there was. But we don't know a lot of these things for certain, yet we take them as literal fact. So, like, I think folklorists, like, the whole idea of ostension and folkloric ostension to me, I think really is something that I feel like pretty soon a lot of people are going to start looking at, and with the lens of like Forteana and High Strangeness. Because to me, they feel there's like a symbiosis, in my opinion, I guess, that I'm finding. Ask me in a year and I'll probably say something different, but like, but that's what I'm excited about these days. So I've been reading a lot of like academic folklore papers and stuff.
Sure. I think that now's a good time to announce we do have a surprise guest. Everybody, Jesus Christ is here with us.
Hello, friends.
Oh boy. Is that what he sounds like? Shouldn't he be speaking Aramaic?
Yeah, it's Jesus. Yeah. Don't criticize Jesus.
Right.
And I'm not being critical of any, I was using that as an example, folks.
No, I'm just messing with you, man.
Of course.
But I think that's really interesting. I think that there is a sort of like mimetic quality to so many of these paranormal stories where even if the details change, the narratives are so similar across time, you know? And I don't know if that's because people are describing a similar phenomenon or because that's just how we structure events in our minds. Right. But you can't ignore it. So, I think it's fascinating because my degree is in English, right? Mm-hmm. And so I love to kind of pick apart stories and kind of break them down to their base elements and then like compare them to other stories, get into sort of the literary theory behind like people's paranormal stories, and you totally can. And it's a fascinating subject. So I get it. I'm into it.
And I mean, you could even use the famous Kenneth Arnold case. I mean, he did not report flying saucers. It was the journalist who wrote the story. Kenneth Arnold saw 9 Delta-shaped, or 7 or 9, I can't remember, Delta-shaped craft flying. And when he talked to the reporter, he said they skipped across the air like a flying saucer would. And the reporter was like, "Flying saucers," said that sounds better. But what do people start reporting a week later?
Yes,
flying saucer
that's
media.
That's what I'm saying.
And that to me is hyperstition. So he's the reporter created a new narrative around this encounter, and then the narrative seemingly became true. If we believe those sightings from that era, I guess.
Right. No, but it is fascinating, and you're absolutely right. It wasn't really until, although you can make the argument, I guess, going back and trying to find specific historical sources.
Totally.
Reporting things that might have been saucers. But
oh yeah, no, you definitely can. I mean, there's saucer cases I can even point to prior to Kenneth Arnold, but that was the beginning of the saucer mania,
right?
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. What a coincidence,
Yeah,
but Keel had that idea of like whatever these entities are, definitely study us.
Yep.
And that's where they get. I mean, I'm sure Keel's not the only one that's had that idea, but that's something he talked about a lot. Was that's how they end up presenting themselves to us. And so,
right.
there probably is some truth there, which is why, we have such big variances in seemingly the same creature. I mean, just taking the Mothman cases, for example, the winged humanoids. I mean,
right.
there are so many color variances and details and stuff that aren't exactly the same. Doesn't mean those events didn't happen for those people. It's just whatever they experienced looked slightly different, but similar enough,
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Like I do just think whether it's a big component or a little component, I do think narrative structure and the folklore and the stories that we've been obviously, Valet and Keel point this out ad nauseum, but like fairy stories, if you substituted alien or gray alien for a lot of these fairy stories, they sound very similar. The structure is the same. The story, the narrative, almost there's a 3x structure to it of absurdity, and they are just so similar. We cannot ignore it. I don't think.
Yeah.
Because I think there's something we need to learn from that. So
don't get Tobias started on fairies.
It's true. I love it.
I do too.
No, you're absolutely right. If you think about and not just traditional sort of home abductions either, but the traveling abduction.
Yep.
You saw that, you see that all the time in fairy lore.
Sure.
And not just sort of specifically fairy lore, although this probably falls into the same category. You look at traditions and Asherz is going to love this one, the wild hunt that I just love talking about.
Oh yeah. I love the wild hunt too.
It's the same damn thing, where you don't want to run into this because you might be struck senseless and wake up in a strange place where you don't know how you got there with some amount of missing time. And boy, if that isn't a classic sort of on the road abduction scenario, I don't know what is.
100%.
My favorite part is that this whole episode, I've been trying to think of a way to squeeze in the wild hunt in there somewhere. And I fucking didn't have to because Tobias loves talking about. Nobody loves talking about the wild hunt more than Tobias, and I love that.
I'll bring it up every time.
It's good stuff. Well, and think about this. Think about how many, name any ghost hunting show or most people who specialize in haunted locations and whatnot.
Yeah,
you'll go to this place, we'll call it the Hadley House. I don't think that exists, but I'm just for an example. And the person who announces that this place is haunted will say well, little Sarah died of tuberculosis in 1812, and she's been haunting this place ever since. Then people start I think we kind of, if people see that Sarah, that story could have totally been made up. I am convinced that a lot of these haunted locations, they are making up a story. Then when people do see characters of the story or the haunted Sarah, or the ghost Sarah, I think maybe sometimes they're telling the truth, but there is this story and data imprinted on this place. And it seems like whatever the phenomenon is will show you what story is appropriate for that place. Because, if you think about haunted locations, first off, we have to all agree that whatever ghosts are, they are dead people. The DPH, the dead person hypothesis, where I see no evidence of that at all, to be honest. I think ghosts are real. I think people see them, but I don't think we know for sure. It's just like saying aliens are ETs.
We don't know anything for sure.
We don't know anything for sure. So we have to presuppose that these are dead spirits haunting this place. That's a big ask. Number two, just because these narratives get grafted onto these locations, and then that is all people report seeing are things related to what the story is. So, it's just it's fascinating to me.
It is, and I get what you're saying. If I could push back just the littlest bit,
Sure, please.
Just as often, what I will see is not people reporting something that on the surface really specifically and perfectly matches the narrative surrounding any particular haunted location. I will see people interpreting other stuff within that narrative. So they'll see like a shadow person and they'll be like, oh, that's the little girl. I'd be like, you don't fucking know that. Like, what do you mean it's the little girl?
Totally,
you didn't see a little girl, or like something will move and they'll be like, oh, the little girl pushed it. She loves playing pranks. And I'm like, well, now you're just making shit up.
Right. It's funny. I went to a place in York, Nebraska, where they literally said this. A little boy lived there, and so supposedly they push around a lot of the cat balls, and they're like, it's because like little Timmy loved to be. He was a little trickster guy, and he loved to play pranks. And I'm like, well, how do we know that?
We don't.
So
I actually had someone on the show back when I was transitioning co-host, and one of the guests that was on worked at a famously haunted location, ended up leaving because it was bought out by new owners, and they had built up a fake story about the hauntings. And then, of course, the visitors that come in claim to have those experiences with those fake stories. And she's like, but she said it's all made up. So either the guests are lying, which they could be, or so of course something else is at play. I can't tell you who it was or what episode it was, but I did find that really interesting. What if these entities, Steve? What if they are actors and they kind of love when we make up a story?
Well, you know what, Asherz, I do think it is at the end of the day. And I'm saying this in all sincerity. I think it's all theater. I think a lot of the way we experience not only life, but the high strangers encounters, I think there is a theatrical component to it. It's rarely like, I feel like there is like this showmanship to high strangeness. And, when it does remind me of the theater, like, if there is a stage or AKA this forest, this clearing, whatever, a UFO lands, like, in the proscenium of the theater, like it just feels very theatrical to me. And I'm not saying that doesn't make it real, but I think we are part of how this stuff manifests. Like, I'm not even sure if it's able to manifest without us. Like, I obviously now I'm getting some real like college dorm bong hit territory here, but like, you know what I'm saying? But like, if a UFO is in the sky and there's no one there to witness, there are no radar or no camera to witness it, it does exist. Sure. If I'm a betting man, I would say it does not. I think it needs, and I have no evidence to back this up. This is an idea I'm hot on right now. And this is my point of view right now. That may change down the road, obviously, but like right now, I don't think it does. I think we are part of the co-creative process of all this stuff.
Sure. I mean, that's a little, what's the word? Like solipsistic, you know what I mean? Like the idea
sort of, yeah.
That, well, that like nothing exists except for ourselves and the things we could perceive.
Right.
Where, I think both could be true.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because there are cases of some, especially if you're talking UFOs, there are some interesting like physical evidence cases.
Definitely.
They are sometimes seemingly like random, like Cash Landrum is the one I think that comes to mind immediately when I think of that, where it's like, there's nothing sexy about that case. You know what I mean?
No.
It's literally just three people who are seemingly in the wrong place at the wrong time and suffered for it,
right.
and have the radiation burns to prove it.
Right.
So I think that both things can be true, because then, if you look at, so much more of the stories in within ufology, you do see stuff seemingly like performatively tailored to the individual, like Whitley Strieber's his experiences, and he makes a compelling case for something having happened to him, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, like that seems to fall more into the realm of what you're talking about. So I guess what I don't like about some of what's going on in the paranormal right now is this like is this sort of like mutually exclusive attitude when it comes to some of this stuff. Like they can both be true is all I'm saying.
Absolutely. 100%. Like I think there could be a real flesh and blood Bigfoot, and then I think there could be a Bigfoot that is not flesh and blood.
Yes. 100%.
I mean, I'm open to all of it. Like, and also, like, I will say this: I believe that there is UFO physical evidence. I'm not saying these things can't appear material. Like Carl Jung even said, he's like, these things are something that emanates from immaterialism, but sometimes under some certain circumstances can behave become material. And that's a woo-woo idea too. But like, I do think that there's multiple facets at play. I don't think it's just one certain thing. And I think when we see certain things, it's not always literally what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think it would be very silly. I mean, I like to refer to things as the phenomena, and I think that there are a lot of connections, and maybe it is the same thing at play sometimes, but it would be really silly to just go, oh, well, all of it is connected, and that's the end of the story.
Right, totally. We don't know that either. Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, there's just so much we don't know.
Agreed.
So all of it's up for grabs. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well,
it's more fun. It's more fun to have a multifaceted, viewpoint of this stuff, I think, because then that means you're still learning all the time, because the ideas I had on this stuff a year ago are pretty different than the ones I have now. Like I'm constantly researching, constantly reading like old, books about the fairy faith and stuff. And I'm learning new things, and I have new ideas and new speculations. Even talking to you guys, I have some things like, oh yeah, maybe. So almost daily you can have new viewpoints in this stuff or add new aspects to your viewpoints.
Yeah. And that's the way it should be. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the way it should be. I mean, I tell people all the time, my ideas on Indrid Cold change so much weekly now at this point. So, and Dogman's another one for me, man. My brain can't wrap itself around it, but God, I've heard some really horrifying experiences from some pretty credible people. And it's like, well, what the hell's that about? I know. It just depends on what it is. So
yeah, it is. It's like just when you feel like you get a better handle on the stuff, you hear a new case or a new couple cases, or someone points out a new pattern. You're like, oh, well, that throws away that idea.
Right. Exactly. It's not fair. And I think that is also part of the phenomenon. I think it's tricky bullshit that it does. So that's just me.
Tricky bullshit.
I just hadn't said anything in a while, so I wanted to chime in with, yeah.
I appreciate your solidarity. With
You're welcome.
Bullshit. Well, Steve, I mean, I kind of do want to keep you all night, but also I don't want to keep you all night.
This has been so
hot
fun
in here.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. I have to get your phone number. I'll call you sometime. We'll shoot the strange.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I really am sincere. I want to come down to the Loveland. What is it called? The Loveland Frogman Festival.
Yeah, it's the Frogman Festival.
The Frog Fest.
Yeah, Frog Fest. Come on down. Definitely, we're there.
Yes.
You can hang out with us and everybody else that's there. That's great.
I can't wait.
I think that would be a wonderful time.
Me too.
And then we'll show you some. I guess I'll show you both some weird stuff in Ohio. I don't know. You'll both be here. Why not?
Please, I would love that.
We'll figure it out. So why don't you go ahead and plug away? Tell people where to find you, how to find you.
Sure. My name is Steve Berg. I don't know why I'm reiterating that. It's probably been abundantly clear to you who has been speaking. But you can find me at Bergmaster5000 on social media and that stuff. And I do have a podcast called Hi, Strangeness, like H-I, saying hi to strangeness. And it's good old fun. We talk about Forteana, and I'm a big fan of just counterculture, and so we have a lot of countercultural discussions and outsider music and that kind of stuff and weird history, and it's a little all over the map, but it's good fun, and I am passionate, and that is where you can find me, my friends. This has been a real joy. I really appreciate it.
Very exciting. And Tobias, I always let Tobias close with something. He's like the Jerry Springer of the show.
Bring us home, baby.
With his final thought. So Tobias.
Oh, geez, no pressure though, right? Well, first of all, I want to say what an absolute pleasure it is talking to my buddy Steve.
Oh, thanks, man.
And if you're not listening to his podcast, you're missing out. Not just because Asherz and I have both been on it. It's legitimately great. And
thank you.
The ideas that you bring to this field, I think, are so refreshing to me. And if I think the takeaway here is that these are the kinds of discussions that we need to be having. And we don't have to agree on everything, but we have to be able to talk about it. And we have to be able to talk about it respectfully, because that is the only way that we are ever going to learn anything or move forward in this field based entirely on human experience, is through human interaction and conversation.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. That is my mantra, my friend.
Well, with that being said, guys, I'm not going to drag this out anymore. We'll see you back here next Wednesday.